Yo, what is up everyone? It is 150 here, and today I am giving you a guide on how to complete your Pokedex in Generation 6. And yes, I am using Comic Sans. Anyway, this info is based off Gen 6 and it's being made before Sun and Moon are out. But it's likely that this information will apply to Sun and Moon as well. I've already completed the Pokedex in Omega Ruby, and I'm only 3 or 4 Pokemon away from doing it in X as well. And I plan to do it again when Sun and Moon come out. But before I begin, let me address some questions and thoughts you may have. I can't do it! I don't have some of the event Pokemon. As of Generation 6, the Pokemon shown on your screen are not required to be caught for the game to acknowledge that you have completed the National Pokedex. So don't stress about missed events. And you don't even need to catch Deoxys if you don't want it for some reason. There will likely be 7th Gen Pokemon added to the list, and if I remember, I'll add an annotation listing them. If Sun and Moon are out for you and you know the Pokemon, tell me in the comments. Next question. What's the point? Ever since Black and White 2, you have been rewarded the Shiny Charm for completing your National Pokedex. What it does is make shiny Pokemon more common. You can see the odd changes on screen now, and while the exact numbers aren't known, it also helps the beginning of Pokeradar and fishing chainings. And while fishing chaining is pretty easy, I definitely recommend you get it before you Pokeradar chaining. Lastly, wouldn't it take too long to be worth the shiny charm? Not really. It only took me about 2 weeks, where I didn't play some days, in the process of discovering these steps. And now shiny hunting is much easier. I definitely recommend it to all shiny hunters, and even if you're not a shiny hunter, it still increases the odds of a shiny hatching during ivy breeding or just popping out of the grass. Even though it may not seem like it, it's fun. Anyway, let's get to how. Step 1. Choose a dex. Don't tackle all 705 Pokemon needed to complete the dex at once. Choose a Pokedex. I'd start with the Hoenn Dex in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and whatever Kalos Dex you're closest to completing in X and Y. Once you've got your dex, move to Step 2, making a list. Open up a Google Doc and write down all Pokemon from the dex you are completing that you don't have. There's an example on screen, with the game being Alpha Sapphire if you couldn't tell through the version-exclusive Pokemon needed. You'll probably need more Pokemon in your game, though. Anyway, now that you know what to catch, it's time to do that. Let's move to Step 3, import from other games. This is a lot easier if you have Pokemon Bank, but still works if you don't. In the example shown, Blaziken, Aggron, and Latios are off my list, because I have Blaziken and Aggron in my X version and traded them to Alpha Sapphire and back to register them in my Pokedex. And Latios in a Black 2 save file that I didn't mind transferring. And ask friends if they have any Pokemon if you need, and if they can trade them to you and trade them back. This is a good way to get version-exclusive Pokemon, especially legendaries. But not everything will be in another game, so catch Pokemon! The tagline is, gotta catch them all. So go see if any Pokemon on your list can be found in the wild. And make sure to check Bulbapedia or Cerebi and not your Pokedex, as the Pokedex won't list Mirage Spots or Friend Safaris. As you can see, Pelipper and Rhyhorn have been marked off our example list, simply by going out and catching them. Anyway, we won't find any more wild Pokemon we need in this game, so let's go to Step 5, catch Pokemon in other games. This is another good way to get version-exclusive Pokemon. However, my example player is not fortunate enough to have Omega Ruby or a Dark-type Friend Safari in his X version, so they can't get the C-Dot line. Anyway, look at the other games you have and see if you can find any wild Pokemon there that you can't in the game you're trying to complete the Pokedex. For example, Zangoose, an Omega Ruby version exclusive, can be found on Route 8 in Pokemon X. Boot up the game, go there, send it to Alpha Sapphire, and you've got one Pokemon off your list. Now the wild won't give you any more Pokemon at all, so let's move on to Step 6, breeding. Sometimes you'll have a Pokemon's evolved form, but not first or middle stage. Breeding is perfect for this reason. First thing you'll need is a Ditto. Catch it even if it's not part of your dex. It'll help a lot, and you'll need one anyway. You can find them in Pokemon Village, normal Friend Safaris, some Mirage Spots, and all over the GTS, which I'll get to later. Ditto can breed with any Pokemon outside the Undiscovered Egg group, due to its unique ability to transform to any Pokemon. In the example, I'm breeding Ditto with Blaziken from X, and a shiny Marshtomp I got off the GTS and never bothered evolving. There's not much to say, so let's move to Step 7, evolving Pokemon. that do so by level up. By far the best way to do this in ORAS is Blissey bases. If you don't know what they are, they're secret bases with level releases and 3 level 100 Blissies that only know Healing Wish. Here are some QR codes. And if you want to gain more experience, steal lucky eggs from wild pelipers found through DexNav and multiply your experience growth by 1.5 times. You're not so fortunate if you're playing X and Y though. You can only get lucky eggs through Chancy Friend Safaris, although you do get a free one in Coumarine City Hotel. And you'll need those lucky eggs because you don't get Blissey bases. Instead, you have to rematch the Pokemon League or go to Restaurant Le Wow in Lumio City. But if you choose the latter, don't be fooled by the high price. As long as you try to finish the battle in the amount of turns they give you, you'll be rewarded about 27 ball mushrooms, which sell for about 168,000 Poke. And completing battles is pretty easy if you know throwing Pokeballs is a way to do nothing. It won't even take away the Pokeball you threw. And make sure to do a rotation battle so the Pokemon you're trying to level up don't have to fight level 60s. Also, no matter what version you have, use this for happiness evolutions, but give them a Soothe Bell over Lucky Egg. And put them in the front of your party with the Soothe Bell as you hatch eggs from the previous step. Now this is about to be the previous step, as we're moving to Step 8, Stone Evolutions. This can be switched around in order with Step 7 or Step 6 if you want, but keep 6 before 7. The only other thing to say is that if you don't have a stone, do Secret Super Training. If you don't know what that is, it's Super Training only for fully EV trained Pokemon. If you don't know what EV trained means, just know that if there's a muscly emoji in the corner of your Super Training screen, your Pokemon is EV trained. Your starter or any Pokemon you've used in a lot of battles is likely EV trained. Anyway, once you've got an EV trained Pokemon, go to Secret Super Training. You'll start at the Aurorus level, and when you clear that, you'll go to Venusaur, then Charizard, and so on until you unlock all the levels. The stones shown next to the levels have a chance of being earned after you cleared the level. Anyway, once you've got the Pokemon you need to evolve and the stone to do so, use it and get one Pokemon off your list. So now looking at our list, we have no way of capturing any of these Pokemon in any of our games. So let's move to Step 9, the GTS. The GTS is a great way to get Pokemon regardless of whether or not you're completing your Pokedex. Go to the GTS and select Seek Pokemon. Search for the Pokemon you need by letter and if you've seen it in battle, or by what Pokemon if you haven't. Make sure you spell the name right though, or it won't find any results. Anyway, now that you've found the Pokemon you want, see what you have to trade, and if you have the Pokemon wanted, trade them. However, you might not find anything you can actually trade, just the offers from those apples who want Groudon and Genesect for their insert Pokemon here. But you can still use the GTS by offering Pokemon. Go to Deposit Pokemon on the GTS. Select a Pokemon to offer for trade. Ask for a fair Pokemon in return. Don't be that apple. If you're not sure whether or not your trade is fair, think, if I had the Pokemon I'm asking for and needed the Pokemon I'm offering, would I make the trade? If the answer is no, your trade is unfair and you will not receive your Pokemon. But if it is, you'll eventually receive the Pokemon you need. But while you're waiting, you can move on to the final step, repeating past steps. The Pokemon you got from the GTS may need to be bred or evolved, so this is a good thing to do while you wait for the GTS trades. And you'll also have to go back to Step 1 until you finish your Dex. And that's about it. Please tell me in the comments if anything doesn't make sense to you, or you are struggling on any of these steps. And please like this video if you thought it was worth your time, and subscribe if you think you'd enjoy more content from me. Speaking of more content from me, you can vote in the Strawpolls. I've linked in the description on what videos I should make in the future and when to upload them. And with that being said, peace!